Hi, friends. Before we get into the show, we wanted to ask that you rate, review, and subscribe to The Breakout. It's quick, it's super easy, and it's a really important way to help people find us and get to hear these inspirational stories. We really appreciate it. Now let's get to the show.
All these rules that have been taught to us, they were not bargained for collectively. Like, we did not actually agree to them.
I think unless you talk about it with a sense of humor, I feel like that's why we're missing the conversation. I feel like that's why sometimes we're not talking about what's actually going on in our country.
We're stuck in an old paradigm of, well, work has to look like this.
Just listen to those kick-ass people. Those are some of our favorite breakout guests from the past year. And the reason you're hearing them now is because, well, it's happened. Kelly and I have officially released our book. Whatever the hell you want, the book we've been telling you about for months is finally out there. It's a book about pushing back on expectations, making shifts big and small, and embracing the life you want.
We know a thing or two about transformations, and we know that they're not easy. So we wanted to write a practical guide to help people make the changes they're aching to make. And in this episode, we're looking back on some of the truly remarkable guests that have broken out of boxes, blown our minds, and inspired us to write our book.
Welcome to The Breakout, a show about smashing through life's little boxes and forging your own path. I'm Dr. Carrie Ulrich.
And I'm Kelly Gunther. Carrie and I are people and change experts, best friends, and business partners. We've spent more than 25 years helping employees and leaders change. With love and a lot of laughs, we're here to empower you to live life on your terms. Our methods may seem a bit unconventional, but trust us, they will change your life.
We know change can sometimes be scary. Heck, it even scares us. But staying the same can be even scarier. On The Breakout, we prove that you can escape expectations. And best of all, we show you how. Hey, Kelly, I'm so excited. No, that's probably not the right word, is excited. I'm probably scared, thrilled, to the point maybe I'll vomit a little bit. I don't know. What is the term, Kelly, for excited and vomit together?
I don't know. It could be me. I don't know. It could be my face or something, because it's a real thing, though. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. But we are very excited /butterfly/vomit that our book released yesterday, Kelly. It actually dropped. So we are looking back today on some of our favorite guests who really inspired us for parts of the book. And it is a wonderful time for us to just kind of take a moment and look back. And then also, Kelly, we can do a little bit of marketing. We can talk about our book. We can talk about the model, because you can pick it up and break out like Kelly and I have done and still doing, by the way.
Every day, actually. I'm breaking out of something that I think I can't do or don't know how to do. But I can't believe the day has come. What's even more strange to me is that it's been 2 years since we sat down in that writer's workshop where I probably had a few meltdowns, shall we say?
Just a few. Are they really meltdowns, though? They're the Kelly Gunther change process. That's the way I look at it.
Which isn't always pretty, but that's why we've got the book, where we made a simple model to guide you through. It's called the Break Change Model. So BREAK. Each letter stands for a step in the process. So the B stands for brave. It's all about being brave enough to really look within and understand what is the change that I might be looking to make. R stands for realize. So it's what are the expectations that are holding you back? What is that thing that's not allowing you to live your life the way that you would like to live it? Then we talk about exploring. So, explore new possibilities. Think about all the things that are possibilities for you. Even if it seems really out there, write it down, because you may want to remember that going forward, and you may reflect back on it later to think, wow, look at everything I've accomplished. Act. You're decisively looking to escape the limitations or the expectations that are placed on you. And finally, K is for keep, which is really keeping that momentum going and living your life on your terms, enjoying your newfound freedom.
And I think too, Kelly, what's so great about our podcast guests is that many have just followed this model naturally. So I think when we started this book, we didn't set out to have a model for change. We just set out to talk about the stories of our guests. And you and I come at change very differently. And we know it through our stories, but we also know it because we've taken a change assessment. And I was on the far side of that scale that said loves change and does it sometimes too much. And Kelly was on the other side of that scale that said doesn't like change. Why am I doing it? And so I feel that between the two of us, we met in this middle of the book by taking all these stories and then create a model, because people need models. When it's not intuitive and when you just don't feel it, it's really hard to explain to someone how to do it, because so many people are stuck. And so I think that the hardest step, Kelly, is that brave part, which is really saying, I want to be really just happier. I want the life that I want, and I want to stop living for other people. And it's so freeing. And I think that is the hardest step, is to realize that. And then there's so much time and effort that we spend in the book to what are those expectations? Because you may think it doesn't fit, but you're not sure why. And then you have to uncover, oh, this was this expectation that was placed on me that I didn't even realize. And now I have to break out of that.
Absolutely. And our guests were just so critical in cementing that break model for us, and especially for pushing against those expectations.
Yeah. So let's get to it and take a look back on some of those great moments. So Kelly, one of my favorite guests was Jolie Hamilton. She's a psychologist, and she specializes in helping people navigate non-monogamous relationships. And she happens to be in a non-monogamous partnership herself, and her story was really eye-opening. And I thought one of the most interesting things about her story is the expectation that is so ingrained in all of us with this one partner, one life, one love. And so monogamy is it. And for her to be so bold and talk about, well, what does it really look like to be happy? And if you shed that expectation that the only answer is monogamy, what does that open up? And is that the right thing?
All these rules that have been taught to us, they were not bargained for collectively. Like, we did not actually agree to them. But when the assumption is made based on, yeah, we got married, or now we're in a long-term relationship, once we head down that path, I find people start setting their expectations, their implicit expectations, week 3 to month 3, somewhere in there, right? We start just saying, this is how this relationship works. And then often we never revisit. So what if instead we decide to be in a relationship where we actively expect there to be an ongoing negotiation and revisiting of things? It's a really beautiful way to live. But for some people, it is a little scary, because some people seek a sense of safety through never having to talk about anything. So that might not be the right fit for them. But everybody else, and I think this is actually the lion's share of humans, everybody who wants to be able to learn and grow and change and potentially renegotiate with partners over decades, yeah, let's get into the messy conversations.
And I did ask my husband after the podcast about, hey, are you good with monogamy, or would you like something else? And so he's used to me asking questions now after every podcast. And he said, no, I'm good with monogamy. I don't want anything else. I said, good, me too. Okay. But we actually had that discussion. And I think if I didn't hear Jolie's podcast, I just would have assumed that that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we talk about, Kelly. You don't have to break every expectation. You just have to ask yourself, does it fit for me? And some of them are going to fit and some of them aren't. And that's okay. But just be aware enough to ask yourself that question.
I mean, talk about living like the most honest lifestyle you possibly could, living with integrity, just the honesty from which she shared her story, the honesty in which she has conversations with her partners. It just is really refreshing. I think something we should all strive to have our relationships look like if you choose to be in one or if you're not. It's a great model for how to really just kind of behave with each other because you're both adults and you should both be able to have conversations that are tricky to navigate. Even if it's not about polyamory, it's about something else. I think that she really exemplifies what it means to truly live within this context of being true to yourself. And I think it's really brave of her to kind of take a look at what was missing from her life or what she felt could be added to her life and make such a bold decision. And then, of course, to keep on living it.
What I loved about Jolie is her whole like workshop and way that she coaches people is not necessarily you have to be in a relationship with another person. It's also a relationship with yourself. And so what does that look like? And that's what I love too, because it spans, it's single to polyamory, and everywhere on that spectrum is, if it's right for you, it's right for you. I think for the break model for Jolie, I think where for me, she really stands out in that realize the expectations that were holding you back, because she did so much research on what are those expectations in society to the point where she has a PhD in it. It's very impressive. Most people don't go get a PhD on expectations, but Jolie did. Another story I loved, Kelly, and I'm sure you could guess this one, is Sean Daniels. Because I love comedy, I love creativity, and I certainly have a soft spot for people who have recovered and who are doing amazing things through that recovery. And that's what Sean's doing. He's a recovering addict, but he's also a playwright, producer, and actor. And his play, The White Chip, has been a huge success. And it's all about rewriting that story of addiction and recovery.
I wrote a play that is a comedy about addiction, and everyone's always like, why would you write a comedy that, and because I don't know anything that's not funny. I don't know a world that doesn't have humor. I mean, even you go to the world's worst funerals and everybody's just waiting for somebody to say something dumb so that they can all laugh and get that first laugh out of the way. So I also grew up in the 80s, which meant that I got to watch a lot of after school specials, like very special episodes.
Very special episodes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, Tom Hanks is drunk, and that's how you know that alcohol is a bad thing. And what those things did was make you feel like it only happened to certain people. And when it happened to them, it was a very precious, lightly underscored event that people would get through. And so that's not the way it is, right? It affects 1 in 3 households in our country. So it's everybody. But I think unless you talk about it with a sense of humor, I feel like that's why we're missing the conversation. I feel like that's why sometimes we're not talking about what's actually going on in our country.
No wonder we really are drawn to him, Kelly, because these serious topics, there's got to be a little bit of humor. It helps people with their creativity. It breaks down some of that vulnerability. That humor is so critical. So no wonder we love Sean. He uses humor. We're using humor in our book.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what I appreciate most about him is just the sort of the candor that he uses to talk about something like addiction. And we've talked with other guests, Carrie, who have had stories of having been in the bowels of addiction. And so for him to take it to a level where people could actually laugh about it, actually see that recovery is a really great place to live. When you can recover and you make the choice to live a life that is sober, there are many great things that can happen. He was brave enough to make the choice to seek help and get treatment and continue on the road of recovery, but that he's keeping it on by sharing the message and really communicating that out to more than just a couple of people who need to hear it. It's a really amazing and beautiful story. One of my favorite episodes over the past year has been Kara Tuttle. For those of you who it's been a minute since you listened to her episode, she is an amazing powerhouse attorney. She is a university educator, and she addresses sexual assault and harassment, which just that combination of should be enough to be like, what? Oh my goodness. And then she realized that even in the year 2024, being a woman and being assertive is still a struggle, no matter what age you are. So she wrote a book about it, about assertiveness for women. And she had such a great take on what assertiveness looks like, what it feels like, and the power of anger and how it can be used in a positive way.
Anger is telling us something. It's often telling us that something isn't right or that a boundary is being violated. So I don't want us to keep raising generations of young people who are afraid to explore their anger or ask questions about what it means or express it. We've been taught to be pleasant. We've been taught to be passive aggressive even. That seems to be everybody's go-to favorite tool.
That's our anger.
Yeah, for a while. And then what? We're resentful, we have insomnia, we have anxiety, we might drink too much. We channel it in a lot of different ways. And so it's about figuring out, okay, I'm going to let the feeling come up. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to think about it. I love a venting happy hour with my friends. That's a great coping mechanism for me. Then I don't send the angry email. I go home, I calm down, and the next day I approach this with strategy, right? And the anger is the fuel behind it, but I'm trying to figure out like, okay, I disagree with this, I don't approve of this, but I need to be persuasive in this situation. How can I harness this? And that's where I try to do that through assertiveness.
As she was talking, I had all these moments like, yeah, of course. Fuck yeah. I had all these moments where it's like, of course we should be doing this. Of course we should be doing that. She is someone who makes it possible for you to see the potential that's within you if you choose to make a step and if you choose to make a commitment to yourself to not let your voice be silenced. And so being assertive doesn't mean that you're being a bitch. It doesn't mean that you're being rude. It means that you're standing up for what you believe in. It means that you're telling and speaking from a place of conviction that's important to you. And that if someone doesn't like the message that you're saying, they can listen to someone else. And so that power of assertiveness and of getting angry enough to make a change in your life was such a beautiful message. And I think one that women need to consistently hear.
Yeah. I think, Kelly, maybe because you and I are very passionate and we get very ticked about things that aren't going well. And that's a variety of things, from the windows aren't working right to systemic racism. So yeah, it's the whole span. Her message of listening to that anger and where is that coming from and what can you do about it? Instead of squishing down, don't be angry. It's really bad. Don't have that emotion. It's yucky. Well, don't live in it. Don't have it 24 hours a day, but listen to it. And I think as women, we are expected to be nice, to not be angry, to settle down all the angry men around us. And I am in love with Kara for saying, stop it. Listen to that anger and do something about it. And we all need to hear it. It's such a beautiful message because that's a big one that women, we don't even realize how much that expectation of being quiet and shutting up is on us all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I think going back to the break model, it's so important for us to realize our limitations. What are the things that are holding us back? And if I'm constantly not saying what needs to be said or what should be said because I'm afraid someone may pass judgment on me, may not like me, whatever, abandon that thinking completely and choose to live and speak your truth on your terms.
Yep. Boom.
So another one of my favorites, now we have Dr. Matt Zakreski, who is a psychologist who works with, advocates for children and adults with something called neurodivergence.
Neurodivergent, people with different brains, which, by the way, it's about 20% of the population, right? So if you're a teacher and you've got 25 kids in your room, by the numbers, you've got 5 neurodivergent kiddos. So when teachers and psychologists say to me, like, I don't work with this population, I'm like, trust me, you do.
Yes, you do.
You just don't know it, right? Because that's ADHD, dyslexia, sensory processing disorder, OCD, giftedness, autism, social pragmatic communication disorder. I could keep going.
He works with clients either in their schools and what I love is workplaces to help create the best work environment for them. You know, we're conditioned to think that there's only one way to work, one way to learn. And The systems would tell you that, but I mean, we're all individual people who have specific needs. And so what Dr. Matt saw was a need for him to help improve people's lives and finding environments or situations that will be the best places for them to learn, think, work, perform, whatever it is. But he's someone who also approaches it from a mindset of using really common, basic, everyday language.
I have a client that I work with, and, like a lot of people with ADHD, doesn't do great on timelines, right? So there's this idea of everything that's assigned to him has a hard and a soft deadline. The soft deadline is we'd like it by Tuesday. We need it by Thursday. Sending that extra line in an email has taken his anxiety from a 9 to a 4. Now he knows when they need it and when they gotta have it, right? Sometimes the accommodation is, say, if you're on the autism spectrum, the office with its awful fluorescent lighting and its water cooler conversation and its cubicles, right? That's not an environment that's going to work really well for an autistic person. So maybe that person works from home, except for the 10 days a year they got to be in the office, right? So we reframe that conversation and you say, you're going to be able to work from home 250 days a year, but we're going to need you in person on days A, B, C, D, et cetera, right? Now, these things are not just a good idea. They're actually consistent with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So there's legal stuff that supports this, right? But the idea is that it's not just the right thing to do. It's also best practice. Because when you have happier employees, they engage more, they do better work, they make you more money, they get promoted faster. I mean, where's the downside here, folks, right? We're stuck in an old paradigm of, well, work has to look like this.
We have talked about with other guests, Kelly, school has come from the Industrial Revolution. We still treat our little children that they're going to go work in the factory after high school. And so we put them on the schedule that's like that. We ring a bell. I mean, it is just like they're going to go to a factory. And we haven't changed that very much. Work is the same, 9 to 5, here's your lunch break. And so it might not work for everyone. So how can you have more diversity of your talent, not just how they look and what gender they are, but how their brains work? And just asking the question, why does the person have to work like this? Maybe the person could work in a different way. And I have seen more and more companies start to think like that. And I love that Dr. Matt is doing it.
Yeah, and to bring it back to the break change model, I think of R in a different way this time. Respect for the individual. I think about it from a standpoint of you're really respecting who the person on the other end of that conversation is when you really understand what they need to thrive. You want someone that really feels a sense of fulfillment and engagement. And then he explored new possibilities. He's a trailblazer in the sense of trying to find a way to help people bridge the gap between where they are and what they need. So what he's doing is just incredibly profound.
Yeah. So Kelly, I know one of our mutual favorites, Celeste Headlee, maybe because, again, so wonderfully funny and sassy and telling the man to go stick it. I think those are our criteria, Kelly. If you want to be a podcast guest, please tell us that those are the things you do. So Celeste Headlee, which so many people know from her TED Talk, because she has a top 10 TED Talk, and she was just kick-ass. And so she's an amazing journalist and author, and calling out something that you and I, Kelly, and others have a very complicated and sometimes toxic relationship with work. And she wrote this amazing book called Do Nothing. And it's all about her experience with becoming sick with overwork, and why we're so addicted to work and the constant grind, which, as she said, we're not knives. We don't grind. Why are we grinding ourselves? This is ridiculous. And this whole focus on busy, busy, busy is literally killing people. And she wants to start a revolution.
I can give you lots of examples on how you can change your life, reclaim your personal life, and still get as much done and be as successful as as you were before, if not more so, because our brains don't work like that. First of all, you're not a knife. Why do we even say grind?
Right.
That is the dumbest thing ever. You're not a piece of metal, for God's sake. The human brain doesn't work that way. We know that the human brain has maybe 4 hours of focused attention in it every day. And we know that because some of the most successful people in history have had maybe 3 to 4 hours of productive time. Thomas Jefferson, Charles Dickens, Marie Curie, Henri Poincaré, Charles Darwin. If you examine the schedules of some of the most accomplished, innovative, world-changing people in history, you will discover that they did maybe 3 to 4 hours of work each day, because that's how much the brain can do. And when they got to the point where they were pushing themselves too far, they got up and walked away. Now, do we do that today? No, we're like, buckle down, jerk, quit complaining, go run a few laps and then come back and get back to it. Rise and grind, which again is a phrase I wish you would die in the pits of hell. Like, it is so anti-human. Our habits are anti-human.
When you think about the fact that in 24 hours a day, there's probably 4 hours where we're really firing on all cylinders, which made me think, are you serious? But then I realized if you think about, if you're working in an office, all of the distractions that come with being just a human being, especially now because we've got phones and apps and whatever, that you really truly have about 4 hours where you are really productive in a day. It really is compelling to stop and think about that and really sit with it for a second.
Yes.
It was truly profound. So from the break model perspective, I think that she is someone who is really being brave by being able to say, do not grind yourself to a point of exhaustion, burnout, which is what we're reading more and more about. And, she's truly keeping it going by not letting the message get lost. She's written a book about it.
Yeah. And what I appreciated too is that self-awareness that is so key. So Kelly, you mentioned the 4 hours. That doesn't mean you don't work for 8.
Right.
It's what are you going to do if your brain is really good for those 4 hours? What are you going to do with those 4 hours? And adjust your schedule accordingly. And so there's a self-awareness part and creating your own destiny and being an agent for your own self of saying, no, I'm not going to do all these bullshit meetings right now. I got to do this work. And that's the 4 hour piece. So I love that. It really helps kind of structure my day. And she said, efficiency is value neutral, because we often think, especially in corporate, efficiency is the goal. Efficiency is the goal. And she said, Carrie, cancer is very efficient too. And it was like a gut punch. You're like, oh God, you're right. Cancer can be super efficient. And so just her saying that broke an expectation that I had as efficient is good. So she just helped me right in that moment. We love Celeste Headlee. Well, that's time. There are so many other guests we could talk about, but we got to stop somewhere. Kelly, it was so great to look back at some of our favorite guests and just take a breath, or dare I say a break, Kelly, and talk about these beautiful guests, celebrate that our book is out, celebrate all this hard work that we've done, Kelly, and share our hard work with the world. It's a beautiful thing.
And when it comes to change, there is a method, a model, if you will.
Yes.
To what sometimes feels like madness. And literally, we wrote the book on the model break. So I can literally say that right now.
Yes, we wrote a book on it.
Check out Whatever the Hell You Want for more inspirational stories and to help with your own breakout. And we look forward to you living your life on your terms.
Yay! Thank you, everyone, for your support. All of these episodes are available on the Breakout podcast. So go back, take a listen, give us feedback, leave a review. We love it.
And check out Whatever the Hell You Want, our new book, available now. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Kelly and I are in the business of breaking free, being brave, and living boldly. We're here to inspire you to be the badass you are meant to be. Coaching and consulting is kind of our thing, and we're really good at it. Connect with us at abrachigroup.com.
And don't forget to subscribe to The Breakout so you never miss a new episode. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And please leave us a review. Reviews help more people find the show, connect with us, and live a more authentic life. I'm Kelly Gunther.
And I'm Dr. Carrie Ulrich. See you next time.